Alright everybody, Mr. Plays coming back to you with another demo, this time on Introduction to Photoshop. Photoshop is a fantastic program to edit a lot of our photos. It's sometimes good for placing text. We use it a lot in video production. So let's have a look at it, but before we open up Photoshop, what I need everybody to do is go over to the server, the video production alias. I need you to go out to the handout folder, VP20s, and go into one Photoshop, and what I want you to do is I want you to grab for Photoshop room. So how do we grab that is we're just going to right click on it, we're going to copy it. Now we're going to go to our master folder on our desktop, and we're going to go into one Photoshop, and we're going to right click and paste it. So we've grabbed it from the server, and now we've placed it onto our local computer that we're working on. Alright, so now that we have them, just to let you know, inside that room is a whole bunch of empty rooms. So for example, here is a room that you might start with, and what your job is going to be in Photoshop is to digitally furnish your room like this. So empty room, and look at all the things you're going to place in there. Okay, embed in there. So here's an example of a room that I give you. You can choose from the many that I give you. Here's the one I'm going to use today. So a nice empty room, we can put a whole bunch of things on the walls and things like that. So here we go. Let's go ahead and open up Photoshop. 99% of the time in the class we always are going to hit create new, move over to film and video, and we're going to always select HDTV 1080p. If you look under that, it's 1920 by 1080, which is our magic number in the class that we've been talking about. We can either double click on it or create, and there we go. We've got our turquoise safes. Okay, so we'll talk about what those are, safe margins, a little bit later, but right now let's figure out what we're doing in Photoshop. So a couple of the key areas that you are going to use is your tool panel right here. We're going to learn a whole bunch of tools as we go. Today maybe 2 or 3 of them. Also, which is very important, is the layer palette right here. And if you look, we have nothing in the layer palette except for a white background, which is locked, so we can't do anything to it right now. So what I want to do is I want to start building my room, and I'm going to bring in my background that will replace this, and that's going to be that empty room. So the way that we're going to do that is we're not going to go File Open, because we don't want to open up 2 documents. What we want to do is we want to go File, Place Embedded. Okay, and that's going to allow us to prompt us to grab a room or anything that we want, and I'm going to bring in this empty room. Now if you look, that's 1920 by 1080 because it fit to the pixel right into that little rectangle that we have here, 1920 by 1080. So that's perfect. So we don't have to upscale it or downscale it, it fits perfectly. What I want to do right now is, if you look, I've got 2 layers now. One is the empty room. Okay, we can turn these on and off to have looks. And right now, you know, if somebody were to click on it and drag it, it might move our background. We don't want that to happen. So what we want to do is select this layer, empty room. Above it, there's a few options. We're going to lock it. So let's lock that down. Now I can't move this around. Okay, a quick little shortcut. It's kind of distant right now. We want to make this as large as possible, so we're going to do some editing to it. So if we hold down Option on the keyboard, you can scroll in and out. Okay, and I think that's really good there. So let's bring in our first item of furniture here. File, Place Embedded. What are we going to bring in? We're going to bring in this couch. It's a JPEG. Okay, so just by the extension JPEG, that means we're going to have to do some cutting or some work to get rid of that white background we see. Let's bring that in. There's our couch. Okay, so it's a pretty half-decent sized couch. It's pretty big. If it was really small like this, I'd go and get another one. So make sure you get large images. This one looks pretty good. It was roughly this big. So a few things that I want to show you right now. Obviously I'm on the Move tool right here where I can click and drag. Make sure that if you are on the Move tool and you want to see your transform controls right here, and turned on by checking that. For some reason Adobe leaves that off, and you have to check that. Also make sure auto select is on, and then when you click things you can auto select, which is great. So again, you can make this bigger or smaller using that tool, but what we want to do now is move down to the lasso tool. So the lasso tool is there's 3 options if I right click, and all of them are very important. Each one of them is used for different reasons. Some will save you some work. This is the freehand lasso tool. If you click on that, you can basically click and then let go, and you can freehand by cutting things out like that. What I want to show you guys is the second tool, and that's the polygonal lasso tool. And why that's good, let me just zoom in on this a little bit more. There, is we can click on, click, 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 double click. Now when I hit delete, wow, okay, so what's going to happen every time you bring in artwork or images from the internet, they're not editable. Okay, they are basically vector shapes, and we have to convert them to raster format. So how do we do that? Every time you bring in something, you're going to have to right click in the layers. It says to couch, so right beside that, all you do is right click and rasterize the layer. And watch what happens when I hit delete now. Okay, so this is the polygonal lasso tool. One more time, we go click, 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 delete. So that's a really good tool. If you look at this background of the JPEG, it's totally white. There's no gradient, and this is very contrasting color right here. So we can actually go down and save us some work by using the magic wand tool. Okay, so I can actually click on that, and it will select everything that's in that color range, white, right here, and delete it. Okay, let me go back a step, Command Z. Because I want to show you a tool that I kind of glossed over, and that is the magnetic lasso tool. And this is really good because, again, if you have contrasting colors like this, and as long as they're not too close, we can kind of zoom in a little bit here, and watch what happens. Click. So I've just clicked once, and I'm just moving it along the edge of the couch. Okay, so it does a really good job, and sometimes you have to do a couple little tweaks. Anyways, that's the magnetic lasso tool. Double click, delete. Okay, so sometimes you can use that, and if you get really skilled at that, that's great. But I would suggest that you would use this tool right here, the magic wand tool, just to get rid of everything very quickly, like this. Look at that, perfect. Okay, and there's one little spot we missed in there that we probably go in and get. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to resize this couch. And if we put it over here, it looks okay, but when we try to move it, okay, it's not working. So what do we do? What if we hold down Command? Okay, so I'm holding down Command. There's other ways of doing this too, but look at that, we can skew things and distort things. Okay, so that's looking pretty good right there. Let's bring in another object. So File, Place Embedded. I'm going to bring in the TV, 3tv.jpg. There it shows up on the top of the layer panel. Okay, what would be the best tool to cut out and get rid of all this white right here? Well, you probably are thinking the magic wand. Let's have a look. Again, it will not work until we rasterize it. So right click, rasterize. Don't forget to do that to all your artwork that comes in. Okay, from the internet. Let's try this again. Look at that. So that got rid of everything around there. And what I want to do is I just want to get rid of the feet, because I'm going to put this on the wall. A TV with feet on the wall doesn't work. So I'm going to use a polygonal, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go click, 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 double click, and get rid of those feet. Okay. So now I'm going to move this TV on the wall, and when I do that, I can resize it. And if you look, it's skewed, right? This side right here is longer than this side right here. So ideally, it would look good up here. Well, I want to put it right here. So what am I going to do to straighten this out? Well, I already talked about it before, and that was using Command. So if I hold down Command now, I can skew and make these different angles. Change them around. Distort them a little bit. Okay, so the rule of thumb for a TV placed in the middle of the wall right here is we want to look at, for this line right here, we want to look at this line on the floor. It has to be parallel. for this line at the top, we look at the line where it intersects the wall and the ceiling. That should be parallel. And then this line here should be parallel to this. And of course, your TV right here should be parallel to this. So let's have a look. We just quickly put it down there. It's looking pretty good. Okay, there might be one little switch that I do, and that would just be to tighten this up right here if you're a perfectionist. There we go. Okay, so moving along, it looks like right now it looks like a Photoshop. It looks like someone just cut out a TV and threw it on the wall. So what we want to do is offer a little bit of depth. How do we do that? We're going to put a shadow on this TV and on this couch, a drop shadow. Okay, so what we want to look at before we do anything with shadows is we just want to sit back and judge where the light's coming from. I mean, there's these two windows right here, so we know our shadow is going to have be a little bit more pronounced on this side of the TV rather than here. Same with the couch. There's going to be more shadows here than there would be behind, obviously. So how do we do that? We're going to use the move tool right here. Okay, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to double click right here and select drop shadow. There we go. If I want to edit that, I can double click beside drop shadow, and here is my distance, spread, size. I can change the opacity if I want. So right now there's no drop shadow. It's hard to see. But when we start making it a little bit bigger, let's also, our shadow is coming in because the last color that I used was white. I'm going to set that to black. Okay, there we go. So obviously this is a horrible drop shadow right here. We could change a couple of things. I'm going to make it smaller. The size of it, obviously a lot smaller. And the angle. So with angles, I've just noticed that if you point the angle in the direction of the light where it's coming from, it will do exactly what you want to do. As I said, there's a little bit more shadow over here. So it's still too much. We can change the opacity of it a little bit and even the size of it, bring it down a bit, and the spread. So for me, subtle is more important than having a huge shadow there. Okay, so even just a little subtle like the subtle shadow. And if you look now, this TV looks like it's raised off the wall just because of that shadow right there. Okay, same thing with this. Let's drop a drop shadow on here. How do we do that? Well, we're going to go over here, double click, drop shadow. Boom, look at that. And yeah, we are going to just move this around a little bit, distance, size. It's very, 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 very subtle. Good. There we go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a picture frame. And I'm going to put it on this wall right here. But before you do that, I want you to look at the angles. There's an angle here we have to follow, an angle here, 90 degrees, and 90 degrees. Okay, why is that important? We're going to go File, Place Embedded. Let's bring in the picture frame. Let's get rid of this background, checkerboard background here. Double click on here. And let's use this tool right here. This is the marquee tool, and the rectangular marquee. And I can just select rectangles like this or squares. And I'm going to hit delete on the keyboard. Again, not editable. What do? We have to rasterize. Delete. And the next one I'm going to use is my polygonal. Click, click. Look at that. Okay, so don't rush it, double click. We have a nice little picture frame on the wall, almost. Double click, there we go. So let's hit the move tool. Let's put this on the wall. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and again, this line up here has to be parallel. So what do? We're going to hold down Command. Hold down Command. So that line up there at the top has to be parallel. This line right here has to be parallel with this wall edge. Look at that. And then this down here has to be parallel, so I have to pull this down a little bit. So that is one big picture on the wall there. Okay. So again, now we can grab anything we want. In this case, I downloaded a picture of Justin Bieber. File, Place Embedded. Justin Bieber, where are you? Right here. Nice big 1920 by 1080 quality version of him. I'm going to make this smaller, way smaller than the picture. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's zoom in by using Option. Okay, and again, I can hold down spacebar too, and I can just kind of click and drag where I'm working. I'm going to zoom in as much as possible here because I'm going to grab these edges. I'm going to hold down Command. Make it a little bit bigger than the picture frame. Okay, so when we bring Justin Bieber right there, we can make it a little bit bigger. Now it doesn't look good until, let's zoom out a little bit here, until we grab Justin Bieber or the picture frame. So Justin Bieber is the top layer. So if we grab Justin Bieber and drop him under the picture frame, watch what happens. There we go. So now if we look, it's basically tucked in behind the picture frame, which is good. You want to add a little drop shadow on your picture frame, very subtle one obviously, you can. So let's select the picture frame. Double click, drop shadow, and might be a little too harsh right here. Let's bring it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, I also want to just quickly show you how to download a PNG, a transparent PNG. So if you did look up PNG couch, sometimes if you put in the word transparent, it will also give you a special type of file that we can download. It's a PNG, so watch this. File, place embedded. Let's grab the PNG couch, and that is going to be right couch PNG right here. Double click. Wow, that's awesome. So if you do download PNGs, you don't have to do a lot of cutting. Okay, so now we can put this wherever we want. Okay, so again, if we wanted to make our TV a little bit smaller, there we go. We can grab this couch, drop it in here. Okay, so things that are further away are smaller. And one more time, let's give it a drop shadow right here. That's what a PNG is. So anyways, complete your room, furnish it, finish it as much as you can, that personalizes. Anyways, so that is basically what we're doing in Photoshop. There'll be a few other assignments that we are required to do in the next week or two. And good luck with your Photoshopping, and any questions, just ask. But this video will give you a quick reference on how to use it for the first time. So good luck, and we'll chat to you soon.